Hey guys, it's Kate and welcome to another Autism Digest interview, where today we have a conversation with someone who I feel is really important in today's divided society. He is the author of a book called The Politics of Autism, and he's a professor of politics at John Carroll University. He is Dr. John Pitney. Thanks for coming on, Dr. Pitney.
Thanks. Actually, I'm a professor at Claremont McKenna College.
Oh, all right. Claremont McKenna, there's a lot of similar colleges in that area, so it's easy to confuse them. All right, my first question for you is, for those that may not know you, what's your story in your own words?
Okay. In 2004, my son was diagnosed with autism, and at that point, I had to make a lot of study, and you might call it involuntary expertise. We had to learn about working with the regional center here in California, with the school. Had to learn about IDEA, which I had never really known before. And as a result, I went around, looked, and noticed there wasn't a great deal of political science literature on autism. So I figured I would take what I was learning and put it to use for the broader public.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I was going to ask what inspired your book, Politics of Autism, but you just answered that. It was your son's own diagnosis. So this changes everything. So my next question for you is, what was it first like when you found out your son was on the spectrum?
Well, we found out the usual ways. There are a variety of behaviors that are characteristic of autism. He was about 2 years old at the time. For example, instead of pointing, he would lead us to certain objects. He was speech delayed. He would engage in stimming, and which is not a word I knew at the time. And we initially got a diagnosis from one of my colleagues at Claremont McKenna College. And then she directed us to the California Regional Center, where we got the formal diagnosis, and that got us on the road to various kinds of interventions and eventually special education in school.
That's exactly how I was diagnosed. I was 2 when I was diagnosed. My parents got the diagnosis in a hospital, not necessarily through a university, as far as I know. And that led to me being put in special education, having an IEP, and now look where I'm at now. I think it's important that we utilize those resources. My next question for you is, as a political scientist, how do you feel about America's current autism initiatives?
That's a terrific question, and it's all over the map, literally, because of our system of federalism. The situation is different from state to state. Here in California, things are reasonably stable. Funding for services is not what a lot of autistic people and their parents would hope, but better than a lot of other states. At the national level, it's a different story. We have a Secretary of Education who wants to abolish her own department. Project 2025 wants to turn the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act into a no-strings block grant, thereby effectively gutting all its protections. And of course, most ominously, you have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Services. Longtime advocate of the discredited theory that vaccines cause autism. So my concern is that a lot of the efforts of HHS are going to be badly misdirected toward theories that don't make sense and approaches that don't work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I actually wrote an article about the RFK thing for a couple of sites, and I pointed out that, in a way, not to get controversial, but he's a bit of a hypocrite. His great aunt has, I'm sure you know, studying this stuff, Rosemary Kennedy, that's who that was. It's easy to get Kennedys mixed up. She was on the spectrum, most likely, had some of the symptoms, so I don't know if his experiences with his aunt influenced his own perspectives, but it's a bit hypocritical, I would say.
Yeah, and the issue here is that John F. Kennedy, his uncle, made steps toward recognition of intellectual and developmental disabilities. Although Rosemary Kennedy was hidden away and the family was not candid about what had happened to her, John F. Kennedy knew what had happened to her. And so he really started to push more than any other previous president toward recognition of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that was a major step forward. Unfortunately, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a step backward.
I absolutely agree with you. My next question for you is, how can we properly...
Hey, you're fine.
Sorry, that's my dog. Go lay down. Go. All right. How can we properly unite this country under a common cause without offending anyone?
That is a great question. One of the themes in my book is that autism politics is like faculty politics on crystal meth. Autism politics is very badly factionalized, even though there are things that can unite the community. I think we're all agreed that we need to do a much better job of providing services and accommodations to people with autism. That research on these services and supports is crucial, that we need accommodations at all levels of education, from preschool through graduate school. And I think if we focus on what unites us rather than on divisions, I think we're all going to be better off.
I absolutely agree. Not just with autism politics, but with anything in today's country. The problem with us now, with society as a whole, is we're not open to other opinions. We think our opinion is the right one, and no one else's opinion matters, when really, we're all the same. That's one of my many mottos. We're all the same. We all want the same thing, peace, love, and positivity. It's how we get it that matters.
Yeah, and ironically, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has, in a way, been a force for unifying the autism community, because whatever people may disagree on, there's general consensus that this is not good for the community, not good for the country.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of a story for you. Earlier this year, I've had Jesse Blake Snyder on, and the way we connected was through a disagreement. But after talking with him, I learned that it's not really fair to judge people by standards, especially in a society that's super duper divided right now.
Yeah, and again, in politics, what we need is efforts to reach across ideological divisions, divisions about theory, and see what we can agree on and move forward.
I absolutely agree. My next question for you is, what's your advice to anyone, neurodivergent or not, that wants to make it in the world of politics?
Well, there are neurodivergent politicians. Jessica Benham, a state legislator in Pennsylvania, Eli No in New York City, who was a member of the state assembly, ran for the U.S. House of Representatives a couple of years ago in the primary, and the person who defeated her is also a very good congressman. And they're also across the ideological spectrum. Briscoe Cain of Texas is a very conservative state legislator. So there are increasing numbers of neurodivergent people literally across the map. And we're starting to see more of them, and that's a good thing, because their voices are important. And I emphasize voices in the plural because they have different points of view, and that's good. That's the essence of deliberation.
I absolutely agree, not just with the neurodivergent community, but with any community. I admire that people are willing to stand up for a cause they believe in. My last question for you is, what are you hoping for the country in the next 30 years?
Well, I'm hoping that there is more acceptance of neurodiverse people, more recognition of what neurodiverse people can do. And that's personal for me. I mentioned my son's original diagnosis was moderate to severe autism. And there was a time in the not too distant past where such people would have been relegated to institutions, at best working in a sheltered workshop. Well, my son just graduated summa cum laude from Pepperdine University and is preparing for a career in the film industry. And I've had students at Claremont McKenna College. One of my students, for instance, a couple of years ago, was our graduation speaker. And so, recognizing that there are a lot of neurodivergent people with challenges, that's a very real thing, and we shouldn't forget that. But neurodiverse people can accomplish a great deal, and we should recognize those accomplishments.
I absolutely agree. And summa cum laude is Dean's List all semester or something, right?
Yeah, he, his lowest grade was an A minus.
That's
so
amazing.
obviously,
I'm about to graduate with a couple of Dean's Lists myself, so it's really amazing to see the accomplishments of neurodivergent people. Congratulations to him. Anyway, that's going to do it for this interview. Thank you so much to Dr. Pitney for coming on and sharing his expertise on the current state of autism politics. If you guys want to see more amazing interviews, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Autism Digest channel. Check out our August issue that comes out next month by going to autismdigest.com. And be on the lookout for this episode to be on Spotify by going to Autism Digest on the Spotify search bar. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.